Good evening, it's Susie Cobden here. My journey to self-discovery began in December 2007. I had been married for almost 24 years and my husband had just been diagnosed with lymphoma. Now, I had been a pleaser. I'd been a good girl. I'd done everything right, and I needed to know why I was being punished. I owned a garden centre. It was 7 years into a drought and very tight water restrictions, and as you can imagine, I wasn't selling too many plants. I had pretty much let go of all my staff in an attempt to keep the business afloat, and I was working 7 days a week, long days, at the garden centre while my husband was home dealing with the repercussions of chemotherapy. I would have gladly stayed at home with him, but he really didn't want me there. He wanted me to go to work and pretend that everything was all right. And I had a struggling business and a struggling marriage, although I'd kept the blinders on and really hadn't looked at the marriage because I was afraid of what I might see. And consequently, I was looking for answers, and it was probably about 12 months after The Secret had been released. So I figured that there was answers to be found, and until The Secret had come out, I had no idea about spirituality or the existence of energy fields, or that we were anything more than just meat suits. But seems that my life was falling apart and no amount of effort that I was putting in was going to turn things around. I needed to try it. I needed to discover what all this talk was about, and consequently it started me on the journey to self-discovery. My husband was at home ill. I was hiding out at the nursery, mostly down the back, in between watering plants, and crying my eyes out, heartbroken because the person that I loved was going through what he was going through and not able to talk to me about it. And I was going home from the nursery with a smile on my face, trying to be positive, because that's what law of attraction told me to do. If I could live in the place of having my wish fulfilled, then everything could right itself. Well, there was a fair bit left out of The Secret, and I was to find all that out. But to cut things short, my husband went into remission. The marriage still ended. We held on for another 2 years around about, and I ended up getting out of the business. I had a business partner that I took on that ended up buying me out, and I began working 9 to 5, managing a bookstore. And yeah, it was soon after that that my husband left and I began life on my own. And that was 5.5 years ago. It's been a pretty incredible ride, and looking at myself in the phone. I look like I've been crying, but I haven't. I'm a bit warm. Um, it's late in the evening and the heating's turned up, and yeah, I just felt like I needed to tell my story. I have been a very avid reader, learner, course taker, seminar attendee of everything from metaphysics to spirituality. Being in the bookshop, I had connections with Hay House. I met a lot of the authors. I follow a lot of the authors. I attended many seminars, and I've done an enormous amount of work on myself. And the blinders, when they came off, was quite eye-opening. I can see that in my husband leaving, there was a tremendous gift. For the first time in my life, I was living on my own. I never had before. So just in that, there was a lot of self-discovery time by myself, which I'd never had, and time to really connect with what I want out of life and finding myself, because I'd been such a pleaser all my life. I lived for everybody, and I'd lost completely in touch, like hadn't been able to. I could have, but I never got in touch with myself. If somebody had asked me, what I would like to do, I couldn't have told them, because I had closed off all my feelings and all thoughts of doing anything outside of what everybody else around me wanted to do. My husband and family took precedence, and my life didn't matter as far as I was concerned. I was a wife and a mother, and I lived for that. And the last 5 years, since I have become independent, I've done all sorts of amazing things. And this last 12 months in particular, since I've left the bookshop, I have been travelling. I actually sold or gave away all of my belongings, and pretty much everything I own is able to fit into my car. So I've been travelling around and getting to know myself in a whole new different way. Letting go of all of my belongings and a place to call home has been an enormous gift in itself, and the expansion that it's brought has been amazing. We tend to think, or we're brought up believing that security is having a place to call home and things, and it really isn't. Life and home is in the heart, and no physical building or stuff can give that to you. So I've gone from a shy pleaser person who really had no idea of life outside of a marriage and a family home, to somebody who I guess has really grasped life in both hands, and am exploring all aspects of my life. There's more than just the physical me, and I've become an open channel. I'm an energy healer, I'm a life coach, and I'm living my passion. I'm helping others to discover who they are and have the courage to step into the lives that they were born to live. Authenticity is something that we each need to live, but very few of us do. We think that being kind and helping others and putting everyone else first is the secret to having a good life, when in actual fact it's cheating the world of who we are. We're each created uniquely with an energy pattern, a light code that, when allowed to shine completely, uniquely, we fulfill our role, our space in the pattern of humanity. Humanity's like a jigsaw puzzle, and we're each an individual piece. And when we're not being authentic, the jigsaw puzzle doesn't get completed. If you can imagine humanity with each of us being slightly different, but each of us together form a magnificent rainbow. And when one of us isn't shining, there's a hole in that rainbow, in that colour spectrum, and nobody else can fill it for us. And until we're brave enough to discover who we are, to follow our hearts and do what we're meant to do, and that could very well be being a wife and a mother. It doesn't mean you've got to let go of your current life. It means that you have to honour yourself enough to be yourself, that you matter, that you're the best gift to your family and your husband when you're true to yourself. And I've got no doubts, had I been true to myself, then my circumstances would have been different right from the start. And I'm not going to go into that, whether it would have been a different marriage. It would have been a different marriage. Whether the same marriage would have ended differently or not ended yet, I don't know. But I know that life gives us what we give. And by me not living my truth, my authenticity, I didn't allow others around me to do that either. So I'm not pointing blame or judgment, because honestly, I didn't know. And nobody else, unless they're awake or in the process of, knows either. We're all doing the best we can, but planetary energy now is forcing everybody to wake up. Our energy's changing, and there's a calling for every human to live authenticity, to find their joy and the freedom that they deserve through being their true self. And it's time. It's time for every one of us. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who is following me or listening to me, or who is making their own attempts at discovering who they are. For anyone who's brave enough to follow their heart and live an authentic life, whether you know me or heard of me or don't even give a hoot. You know, our energies are uniting all of us and calling each of us towards our authentic selves, and it doesn't matter how we get there. But I'm putting my hand up and I'm offering to help anybody who's ready. So this is my story. If any of you are listening to this and you are ready, if you'd like to have a chat, then contact me on my calendar, which I'll put the link with this video, and we can have a free chat and discuss whether I can help you with any of your future discoveries. Otherwise, I wish you all well, and please comment. Would love to hear from any of you in my group, and I just want to say I love you all. The fact that we're all being drawn together is not an accident. So thank you, and we'll chat on the next video. Bye bye.